Assistant Secretary of State. Joel, Ukraine's President Zelensky, he gave a speech and asked Congress for aid and Biden to be the leader of peace. How do you think the U.S. and its allies have been doing throughout this war? Have they been supportive enough?
Ashley, President Zelensky, first and foremost, today was powerful, passionate. He represented his people exquisitely and really had an impact here in Washington on how people feel about this conflict. There's clearly been a lot of support, but this is now at a deeper level in terms of America's commitment to Ukraine. So for President Biden, we saw him come out right afterwards, a little bit after, and say that the United States is going to spend $800 million more in defense support for Ukraine. I think that the administration, we're hearing time and again, it's continually ramping up its assistance to Ukraine to ensure that it has the supplies it needs. But clearly, there's always more that can be done, and we're seeing that there are needs continually arising. But yeah, I do believe that the administration is continually being responsive in providing defense equipment to Ukraine. And we're seeing the results, which is that Russia's fight has been stalled time and again. But the humanitarian cost here is so high that it's clearly frustrating for everybody and very upsetting as well.
Yeah. And Joel, you're talking about that $800 million in additional assistance from the United States. Talk to me about the timing of that. Why now? We're weeks into this, so is there a reason why it's coming now and not earlier?
Yeah, you know, Ashley, it's amazing. This is the fifth additional amount of aid provided to Ukraine by the United States just since August, so in half a year, and it continues to come out. And I think that's because we see a rolling commitment for the United States to supply military aid to Ukraine to defend itself. And we're seeing an unprecedented invasion by Russia. We're seeing an invasion that was predicted, but now to witness it demonstrates and provides a sort of a window into what is needed. So the Pentagon, and in my discussions with the administration, I hear this loud and clear, the Pentagon is refining time and again the specific defense articles it needs to provide to Ukraine so that they can be effective and also usable. You have to remember that sending a weapon isn't good enough. It has to be able to be used by the operator. So there's a lot of coordination underway and a continual refinement. And I'm sure that we're going to continue to see more dollars going out the door towards Ukraine, more weapons going out over time as that refinement continues.
Yeah. I want to shift now to talk about Russia's President Vladimir Putin. He recently said that Ukraine has nuclear weapons and biological weapons programs. What is the point in him sharing that information? Does he know that for sure? What's his goal?
Well, this is more gaslighting by Vladimir Putin, trying to create false predicates for his invasion, trying to justify the unjustifiable, trying to use language that scares the world. But it also demonstrates a deep insecurity on his part. He knows that Russia is bogged down in this war. The big fear for military planners when talking about Russian military doctrine, however, is that if Russia feels like it's going to lose, they very well may themselves use these kinds of weapons. And so they're trying to create a justification ahead of time, just like they tried to before they invaded, arguing that somehow Ukraine was committing atrocities against Russians in eastern Ukraine, and that there were all these fake excuses that were debunked. It looks like he's doing it again. They're in a more desperate situation. Their economy is crashing because of the sanctions program. They're bogged down militarily. They're isolated diplomatically. And so it is worrisome that he's using this language, attempting to try to find a way to justify potentially more heinous activity.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joel, I continue to ask you this question because I feel like the answer, it changes a little bit each time depending on what's going on. But everybody, of course, is trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel and how all of this is going to end. Are you still hopeful that there's a diplomatic end to this?
I'm always hopeful that there's a diplomatic end, largely because there has to be, at some point, some kind of a decision made by the leaders to end hostilities, and meaning, in this case, Vladimir Putin, recognizing that he is not going to achieve his goals militarily. So more leverage is being provided now by the United States to Ukraine to get that kind of an end state. But from an American perspective, we really don't have anything to negotiate right now with Vladimir Putin. What we have to do diplomatically is ensure that he is feeling the squeeze, ensure that he is isolated, that our allies feel protected. And hopefully we get to the point where he comes to the table saying he is no longer in this invasion mentality, and he is going to actually move his forces out and withdraw and end this war.
Yeah. Joel Rubin, I always want to thank you for coming here, adding context to this very painful moment in world and international history. So thank you so much for coming here and educating us.
My pleasure.